Hi there. I haven't done a book update that very long ago, and I got a stack of books that's just insane. So here's another one. Um, Goodwill is really good to me with books. So yeah, I'm gonna show them. First up, it's something whenever I see books like this, I pick them up and I show them here because I buy it, and that's Snoopy. I like these, so I have a collection of these original American Snoopy comics, booklets, things. Um, Nothing special, but I just like them. Um, I got a small stack of sleazy paperback novels. If you are a person who has watched most, if not all, of my book videos, you know that I started it out as the Sleaze Library. That's what drew me into the collecting and picking up books at Goodwill. Um, the early 40s, 50s, 60s paperback novels, either detective, science fiction, horror, whatever. I picked up a whole bunch of thrillers, mystery novels. Um, First one is by Earl Stanley Gardner, Case of the Lonely Heiress. It's part of his Perry Mason series. He's done a lot of these, and they were all called The Case of etc. etc. Um, for those who don't know Perry Mason, back in the 60s, this was a TV series with this guy, Raymond Burr. Um, he was a lawyer who solved crimes, so not much different than a detective or I don't know, a cop or a private eye, but in this case, a lawyer. Um, Really awesome artwork. That's the reason why I collect these books. Earl Stanley Gardner also wrote under a different name, which was A. Fair. This is his novel, Bats Fly at Dusk. That cover is just stunning. This is more of a private eye story where two private eyes, uh, Donald Lamb and Bertha Cool, um, solve crimes. And there's again a whole bunch of these Donald Lamb and Bertha Cool novels out there, written by A. Fair or Earl Stanley Gardner. Like a cool design, but nothing special. Another writer that I have a ton of books by because he wrote a ton of books is Carter Brown. Carter Brown is a British man who moved to Australia and wrote books there. So he's actually an Australian writer. But he was pretty popular in the US, and those books, well, you find them sometimes, like this one, The Velvet Vixen. He had several characters, among them Al Wheeler, a lieutenant, solving mysteries, solving crimes. And all of the books that I've seen by Carter Brown all have these drawings, paintings of women on them. This is a woman who has a record there. It's not a cover that makes you wonder like, oh, what's going to happen to her. It's basically just they're lounging like this one, the white bikini. See, she's lounging on a chair with a guitar by her side. But they're really really awesome drawings, and I can't get enough of these books. And the last one by Carter Brown that I found, this one's a little more risque because she's got a gun. It's called The Mistress, and it takes place in Vegas, I believe. Yep. And here's a picture of Carter Brown. the writer. Um, Picked this up because it looked pretty cool. $100 Misunderstanding. It's basically a story about Jimmy. I'm reading this off the back, so I haven't read it yet. Who's a college boy who thinks only about sex until he meets Kitten, a I think African American girl, and they sort of get involved. It's a comedy thing, but I'm not too sure what it's really about. It's written by a guy called Robert Gover, but I like this. It's a little dark, but if you see it in real, it's a pretty nice drawing. Also, tend to pick up books by this author, Ian Fleming. This is Moonraker. You don't know that guy. I'm sure you don't. There he is. That's the picture they always use. Him with a cigar or cigarette. Yeah, Moonraker. I think everyone out there has seen the movie of it. Maybe most of you or some of you have read the book. I've only read one James Bond novel so far, and it's a lot more hard-boiled and darker and serious than the movie versions. But I'm intrigued. Also picked up this one, Thunderball, which has, if you can see it, there are little holes in there, bullet holes. So that's pretty cool. So that's another James Bond for the collection. Getting more serious, I believe. Picked up this Aldous Huxley novel, After Many a Summer. On the back, it gets compared to Brave New World, and it's more of a fantasy, parables, futuristic story, but I don't know really what it's about. I don't read back blurbs, stories on the back, because I want to find out what it's about by reading it. But I like this drawing, and Aldous Huxley is an interesting writer. Picked up this Terry Southern Blue Movie. Terry Southern is the guy who wrote the screenplay to Doctor Strangelove and Barbarella, and as you can see, it mentions Candy. Candy is a really 60s type movie, LSD, drugs, hippies, and awesome soundtrack. Well, he wrote that as well. This is a novel he wrote called Blue Movie about the adult entertainment business. It's from 1970. Don't know if it's going to be really like funny or weird or sexy or all of the three. I don't know. But Terry Southern, I had to pick it up because it's Terry Southern. Now on to more serious novels, I guess. I don't know. This is James M. Cain's Mildred Pierce. Mildred Pierce is a classic story that was made into a movie, a film noir. James M. Cain is a writer who wrote a lot of books that were turned into film noirs, like Postman Always Rings Twice. But I had to pick this one up. This is a 2008? Yeah, 2008 edition of this book. It was on my wish list. So finding it at Goodwill for it was $1.95, less than €2. It's just amazing. Then I also picked up this one just because I've heard so many good stories about the movie, and I want to read the book, Life of Pi by Jan Martel. Very spiritual book. At least the movie is very spiritual, so I'm guessing the book is spiritual as well. So intriguing, yeah. I think some of you might have read this. If not, if you have, let me know if it's any good. Um, this was another find that I'm like, wow, excited by, because it's I think still the last book he wrote. He's probably going to publish something new soon, but this is the last Nick Hornby novel, Juliet Naked. I love Nick Hornby. This one is a book from 2009, and it's published. It was written in 2009, published 2010. But yeah, Juliet Naked. It's more of a love relationship novel, I guess. Uh, yeah, but I love Nick Hornby, like I said. The next one is probably the find of not the day, but I picked up in a couple of days. But the find of this bunch. Not because it's a classic novel, it's become this cult classic, that's for sure. But it's not a classic in terms of stature it has. But I just had to pick it up, and that is Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is, well, Jane Austen with zombies. Uh, I have not read it yet, um, but I've heard so much. Sorry, so much about it. I really want to check it out. There's pictures in it. Find it. There you got zombies munching on a corpse. It's odd. And that publishing company, Quirk, they did a lot of these. I think the last one, if I looked online, is a mix-up between Star Wars and William Shakespeare. So it's Star Wars in with William Shakespeare dialogue. I don't know. Could be fun, but this is a pretty cool find, and it also cost me $1.95. Long time ago, I started reading uh, books again after school, and it didn't take long because I got into the books, especially the book I'm going to show you next. But I sort of lost touch with reading, and then years later I picked it up again, and now I'm still reading. Um, but the book I read at the time, which I was intrigued by because I really enjoyed it, is this one. This is Thomas Harris's Red Dragon, which is, of course, the first in the Hannibal Lecter series. So I'm going to read it again, this time in English. At the time that I read it first was in Dutch. So, yeah, if I like this, I might pick up more by Thomas Harris. The movie versions, especially Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal and all the movies after that, kind of destroyed it for me because um, even though Silence of the Lambs is a good movie, it's kind of ridiculous now. But on to classic novels. This is Herman Hesse's Siddhartha. Um, he is a guy who wrote a book called Steppenwolf, classic German writer from the 20s, 1920s. Very spiritual novel again, set in India, and I'm intrigued. I saw a Dutch version of this, didn't pick it up, and then I got this English language version. I love reading in English because it's kind of weird because I'm Dutch, but I love reading in English, and as you can see, most of these are all in English. Um, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Want to catch up on my classic horror novels. This is part of a classic series by Penguin, and there's nice covers. And this was cheap. It was $1. Same goes for Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and other stories. So yeah, this was a little more expensive, $1.95. But yeah, I'm excited. You know, the books I pick up, they're not more expensive than €2, so that's good. Next up is a beautiful novel. I don't know if there's supposed to be a dust jacket over this. Could be. Don't know what year it's from. Doesn't mention it, but it looks like it's an edition from the 80s. It really doesn't say. It's part of the you can read it. Great masterpieces of Russian literature. This is my first classic Russian novel. Um, Originally written in the 1800s, 1841. This is, you can't read it. It's too freaking dark. Nikolai Gogol's Dead Souls, um, which is the title of a Joy Division song. So it might be that he got influenced by this. He loves dark, twisted. Ian Curtis loved dark, twisted, and kind of depressing stories. Um, so it might be that it was influenced by this. But Gogol is a writer I know by name. Um, Odd, surreal, dark, fantasy-like. I don't know, but I'm really intrigued by this. I love the book. Two Dutch books. First up, the book that everyone in Holland probably read for school because it's this thick. The thinnest book you could find. It's less than 100 pages. Goudij by Tim Krabbe. Goudij means the gold egg. It was later turned into a movie which got a lot of praise, which even had an American remake. Both of them in the US were called The Vanishing. The original from '88 you should check out. Dark, sinister novel in which a couple go on holiday to France. The woman disappears. She gets kidnapped, probably, and the boyfriend years later wants to find out what happened to her, and he does. He does find out what happened to her. Like I said, it's just a short little novel, and I didn't even read this. I didn't like reading because I was forced to read. Now I'm not forced and I like it. This is another novel by Herman Brusselmans, uitgeverij Guggenheimer. Brusselmans is a Belgian writer. He's a he's a provocative figure in literature, in Dutch literature, Dutch language literature. But I love his books. Started out with one book called Pit Face, which I thought was disturbing and just didn't like it. But I discovered that most of his books were not disturbing. They were basically just books about nothing happening and just weird people and weird dialogues and just odd situations, and that's what it is. There's a lot of talk, a lot of absurd situations, lots of absurd people in here, but nothing happens with them. So if you like that, Brusselmans is a good read. If you don't like it, don't even start there. One of his books was turned into a movie called Ekströmer. That is an awesome movie. Check it out if you like just weird little films. But yeah, always pick up Brusselmans when I see it, but you don't see it that often, even though he writes like 4 or 5 books a year. I got 3 more books. First up, it's Paul Auster's City of Glass, interpreted as a comic by Paul Karasik and David Mazzucchelli. It's a graphic novel of Paul Auster's City of Glass. And when I saw this, I just had to pick it up. I'm always intrigued by graphic novels, especially when they're based on books. Always tend to pick up Stephen King novels if they're in good shape. Picked up Insomnia. Don't really know what it's about. It's about spirits and ghosts and whatever, I think. But yeah, it's Stephen King. And this is in really, really good shape. So I had to pick it up for €1.50. €1.50. And the last book I got isn't a fiction book. It's a non-fiction book. Hardly ever pick them up, but if they're based on music or movies or political beliefs that I'm interested in, I pick them up. This time it's a movie book. The Incredible Strange Film Book by Jonathan Ross. And here's Jonathan. Jonathan Ross I know from this and from a movie program he did on the BBC and a talk show he did on the BBC. He's a very funny, clever guy, and this is a book where he talks about B-movies and exploitation movies and just incredible strange films. It's a companion piece to a TV program he did back in the 90s, early 90s. Lots of pictures, lots of posters, stories about sexploitation, exploitation, Italian horror, splatter movies. It has interviews with Russ Meyer, with Herschel Gordon Lewis, who is a classic of the early splatter scene. Talks about Lucia Fulci and Dario Argento. It's an interesting little book. Here we have Suspiria. So yeah, when I saw this for 75 cents, I just had to pick it up. Anyway, it's a big update. Oops, it's almost falling. I'll leave it at this. Who knows how quick the next book update will be. It might take longer. You never know. Anyway, take care. I'll be seeing you. Bye.